Good afternoon, everybody. It's Jason here with AVPro, and I have my training director, Jim Burns, here with me. Jim, how are you?
I'm doing great. How are you?
Good to hear. Good to hear. I'm doing great, man. Down here in Florida, the winter's nice. Everything's going well. We're excited to talk to you today. You're going to be showing the people a really cool new product that is involving MXnet, and that's a 24-port copper switch. We'll go through a presentation. If you guys have any questions as we're going along here, feel free to type the questions into the chat box. I'll be in the background. I'll try to answer them as we go, but if we don't get them as we're going, then we'll save a little bit of time at the end and go through the questions. If anybody has any problems seeing us or hearing us or seeing the screen share, everything does look like it's working correctly, but if you see something, feel free to let me know and we can kind of go from there. So, Jim, let's
All
take it
right,
away.
let's go. All right. As you know, we have complete ecosystems for AV over IP. We have three. We're going to talk about our 10G system today. When we came out with the system, we were the first people in the industry to have a copper PoE 10G switch. The reason for that is everyone else primarily focused on data at that time. When we came out with the switch, we realized PoE was important for the integrators and our endpoints. It just made it a lot easier for them to install. The response and the sales of that switch have been phenomenal, and we have had our dealers asking for larger switches with PoE. So we listened, and here it is. So we're going to talk about what this does. There's a couple questions up here, which I'm sure you've had time to read. What are you going to need to solve these issues? You need an AV over IP switch that was specifically designed and optimized for AV over IP, is pre-configured. An AV over IP switch that has endpoints that auto-discover. They're pre-configured to work with that switch, so everything works right out of the box. An AV over IP switch that does not need an IT specialist to set it up. That's super important too. You need an AV over IP switch that has the availability to set up LANs with the same GUI you use for AV control. And this is the most important one for me. You need an AV over IP switch that allows you to concentrate on being an AV specialist, not an IT administrator. And here it is, our 24-port 10G PoE network switch, officially the AC MXnet 10G SW24C. We also have a 24Q, which we'll talk about in just a couple of minutes. All right, so this switch is designed to seamlessly support wide range of AV over IP, 24 ports copper PoE, 8 PoE++, 16 PoE+, 2 40 gigabit QSFP fiber ports. We have carrier grade fans, an option for redundant hot swappable power supply. And of course, it's plug and play. Let's take a quick look at it. This is what it looks like up close. We have a management port, console port, our 24 PoE copper 10G ports, and then the 2 QSFP plus ports. On the back, we have 3 fans, and here highlighted is the slot for the optional redundant power supply. Pretty straightforward, nice clean setup. And of course, this is designed specifically to work right out of the box with our endpoints. It works with everyone else's endpoints. Also, what's nice with ours is it's plug and play. They auto discover. You can even change as it's running, unplug a transceiver from a port on the switch, plug it into another one. It'll auto discover without any programming and send that same programming back to that switch once that endpoint reboots. Also, control for the CBOX and switch management work too. Here's the complete MXnet 10G line. This switch, of course, works with the entire ecosystem. And let's take a look at our switches. Here are our current offerings for 10G switches. We have the first PoE 10G switch ever on the market, the SW12C. We've now added the SW24C, and then we have an SW24Q. So we have 2 24-port switches. They are for different applications and work better for different topologies. They give you the option for more solutions, and that's what we do. We try to make the integrator and the designer's life easier at AVPro. And one of the ways to do that is with offering more solutions. When you talk about our switches now and you're talking with someone or you want to order, make sure you realize that we have a 24C and a 24Q. We also have a 48Q in the line, which is 48 ports fiber switch. Very useful for larger systems. or to use as a backbone for large 1G systems. The POE and POE++. The first 8 ports on this switch are POE++. None of the MXnet devices take that much power. All of our MXnet devices are POE+. So that will work through the entire switch. If you're using someone else's third-party device that needs POE++, you need to put that in one of the first 8 ports. All right, why are you going to use this switch? Well, all of our MXnet ecosystems work super well with USB. The 24C is part of that ecosystem, and that's no different at all. Intelligent AV processing. These switches are designed for AV over IP, not regular data. They will work for data, but out of the box, they are we're set up for IGMP, jumbo frames, spanning tree, multicast filtering. These are all things you need to do with AV over IP because the data is different, right? As we know, the data is a continuous stream with AV over IP. When you're sending data across networks, faxes, other stuff going back, emails, other stuff going back and forth, that's very spiky data. Those are different size packets and they're different types of streams. In fact, the stream and the compression format actually become very important when setting up multiple switches. We'll talk about that in a little bit. We have our MXnet operating system, multicast CPU. What we do in AV over IP and where we use AV over IP, it's for audio and video distribution. That in data terms is called multicasting. That's a lot different than point-to-point communication. And it turns out it's a lot more complicated. It's a lot more work for the CPU. We make sure we have a CPU that won't run any higher than 40% of its power is needed for a fully populated switch with a bunch of VLANs in there. Quality of service is set up on this switch specifically for Dante. That becomes important with Dante when you do multicasting, and multicasting is audio distribution. So it is set up like that way out of the box. So it's also plug and play for Dante. As I mentioned, our pre-configured IGMP protocol setup, the MTU settings, all plug and play for AV over IP. We have auto link aggregation and port group for 2-switch installation. And we'll talk a little bit more of that in a minute. We have virtual switch framework. So as we plug in our 240 gig links, if we stack 2 of these switches together, it will know that it's stacked. It'll work as one switch, and our virtual switch framework helps them switch that data, get that data before back and forth between each other, and helps them communicate. It enhances the data flow between the switches quite a bit. We do have enhanced security on this switch with the management port, and of course, very highly adaptable VLAN features, which is you can do through command line interface, the switch GUI, or even better through our Mentor software by just using your mouse with our graphical interface. Let's take a quick look at an application. One single 24Q, the connection diagram, right? Pick any port you want, propagate it with our C-box and our transceivers. And we're showing the transceivers here set up as encoders and decoders. Straightforward, real easy. This is what you're going to do in a lot of your installations, and it will just work and actually get pictures on your displays before you can hook up your computer to control and set the system up. Works great. Now, we can stack 2 of these switches with the auto aggregation. They will stack. When you do that, they work as one switch. However, you do need to load balance anytime you connect switches through link aggregation or trunking. This isn't just our switches, this is everyone's switches in the industry, and this can become fairly complicated fairly quickly in large deployments. What you need to know is that you might need to be careful with how many encoders, and it's not encoders, the decoders, it's just the encoders that take up the bandwidth between those links. You need to be aware that you can only have a finite amount when you stack or daisy chain or trunk switches. If you know how to do that, that's great. If you don't know how to do it, give us a call. But it's pretty simple. We've got 2 40 gig links between these 2 switches. That equals 80. And this is a 10G system. So that means we can have 8 10G encoders on each switch. So we can have a total of 16 in this stack configuration. If you need more than 16, we can go to the 48 port and get you a lot more. Or there's other ways we can do that. Just give us a call. Not a problem whatsoever. All right, so we talked about that and those two links going between the switches. That is called link aggregation. And when you do this link aggregation, even between those two links, you need to do another type of load balancing. And there are algorithms out there that all the AV over IP switches use. There's 3 or 4 popular ones. They're in there. The switch will decide what to use based off of the type of traffic that's there and even the compression scheme that's used. What we found is with SDVOE, and that's what we use for 10G, those commonly used algorithms don't work well 100% of the time. You'll end up with a data blockage on one of those links. And we did this through our large scale testing. And we are pretty unique in this aspect because we are a test instrument manufacturer with Meridio. We also manufacture endpoints for AV over IP, and we manufacture switches for AV over IP. We're the only company to do all of this and have these complete ecosystems. So we tested and we did large scale testing. So we did find an algorithm through our large scale testing that works really, really well for SDVEO at large deployments. That is in this switch now, and we'll have updates for some of our other switches too and systems going forward. And I'm pretty sure we're the only ones out there that have found this little issue. And again, no one else is likely to because they don't make they only make one of the components, the endpoints, the switcher, or the test equipment. We have all 3 under one umbrella. Okay, so we talked about link aggregation and stacking switches, and that will limit the number of encoders by stacking 2 24 queues to 16. However, if you just have one MXnet 24C, you can have up to 23 encoders on it. We don't have that blockage of only 80G to go between. Our switches are non-blocking, and you can fill up every port. Actually, if you wanted all 24 with encoders, you're not going to get anything out of it, but it will take the data of having all encoders on there. You cannot overload the switch. Okay, we do have another little thing that we can do here too. It is natively a 24 port switch. We can add breakout cables here, and by adding this little breakout cable, we can expand our system up to 32 ports. We do that because each of these 40G QSFP plus ports is broken out into 1x4 cable splitter basically. So they'll each have individual addresses, and you can get up to 32 ports on there. This is nice if you're filled up with 24 ports and you need a little expansion, but do remember when you do this, those last 8 ports, they are fiber. There is not POE power with those. You're going to have to power with a wall wart or power with our PSU 24. All right, mentioned switching capacity and some numbers. If you know about switches, you take a look at a 24 port switch, you look at these numbers, you go, wow, this switch is super powerful. If you don't, just know it's a super powerful switch. Because it's a 10G system, it will have longer legs of life in an install than a 1G system, and that works out great with us because we have a 10-year warranty on this switch and all of our other MXnet products. Nice selling point talking to your clients is like, hey, look, this switch and this is going to last a long time. There's a 10-year warranty on it, and because it's 10G, it's going to last a lot longer in your installation without having technology change. All right, so any more questions? You want to talk to us about applications? Do not hesitate to give us a call at any point in time. You have a really big system, you're not sure what to do. In fact, any application that you're not sure what to do, MXnet or otherwise, something with HDMI, anything with audio, just give us a call. We have a lot of solutions out there and a lot of application engineers that would be willing to help. Hey, any questions coming, Jason?
Jim, thank you. That was awesome. We had one question from Neil, and I'd like to take a stab at it. This is one of those things where we want to listen to the installers. It's something that we're very famous for, is listening to the installers and figuring out what they want and putting out a product. Example A is this switch right here. So the question from Neil says, are the POE++ ports labeled clearly? We have a couple of ideas, one of them being a removable sticker that's on the physical unit that you'd have to peel off after you unbox it and you're about to install it. That's one idea that we have. Another idea is a QR code in the box that will get you to the quick start guide, which will show you this information. If you guys think of a better way or an easier way for you, please let us know, because we'll do it. Neil, thank you for the question. And Jim, that's it. Neil had the only question today.
All right, they are clearly labeled. Unfortunately, that is just 1 through 8, and that's why we call that out. Once it's in a rack, a sticker on the top or something, you're going to forget about that in the future. But the important thing is, if it's just an MXnet install, any of the ports work with our endpoints because they don't take that much power.
Actually, Ted dropped in a question here last second. Will there be a TAA compliant version?
This one is not, which apparently Ted knows. My general answer is we are a very dynamic company. We are always moving forward. We are always looking for solutions that work in as many places as possible. We will do everything we can to help in every way. I just don't have a direct answer for that. We are developing a lot more products. I'll just leave it at that.
Cool. If anybody has any last second questions, go ahead and type them in now. If not, Jim, good job. Cool little switch. Thank you so much for the presentation.
It's a great little switch, and it's going to work in a lot of installations. We were pretty excited about this.
Good. Okay, guys, that looks like that's the last question there from Ted. And Jim, thanks a whole bunch, and have a great afternoon. For those of you who are watching this live, it is being recorded, and we'll put it up on YouTube in case you have any colleagues or coworkers that weren't able to attend the live session. So check our YouTube channel here in the next couple of days. Once that link is up on YouTube, we will send it out on our social medias and LinkedIn and all those fun places. So other than that, have a great afternoon, and thank you for your time.
All right, thanks for coming. See you later.